Welcome to Feel Good Friday, our weekly segment where we dive into the weird and wild news in the world of health. This week, copromancy and the physics of poop. Men are dying really quick. Evil twin brain tumors?
Oh, no. Oh, man. Dude, men are dying really quick. That's the clip. That's the meme.
Are you talking about something that that any of our listeners will know what you're talking about?
Well, you could have used the clip I've been fucking hammering on about all morning.
It's copyrighted.
Begging Brian to watch.
Begging.
Could have been used.
It's begging.
In this to illustrate why men don't live as long as women.
Well, we're going to get to some of the actual reasons why. But that's the middle of the episode.
What's copromancy?
Well, that's a good question, Brian. Are you guys familiar with necromancy?
I was going to say it's corporate necrophilia.
No, necrophilia and necromancy are two different things, brother.
But they're both dead.
Do you mean the dark arts?
Yeah, it's the dark arts. Necromancy is the practice of the magical practice of raising the dead, or turning the dead into your minions to do your evil biddings.
Or sex.
That's necromancy.
I saw you play Diablo 4, and I saw you necromance a lot.
Yes. Now, do you think you've ever seen me corporomance? Corporomancy.
I don't think so. I would have to like it.
Actually, I think it's copromancy.
It's okay.
Copromancy or copromancy.
If you're saying corporomancy, I would have just guessed it was raising dead bodies, which sounds like necromancy.
Let's say copromancy.
Copromancy.
Yeah. Do you think you've ever caught me copromancying?
I feel just the way it sounds. I hope not.
Yeah. So you can't. I don't think you can do copromancy in Diablo 4.
Is it legal?
Oh, it's legal. Yeah.
Is it legal in the human realm?
Yes. Yeah. Copromancy is. Yeah.
Okay.
I guess
I
now that you actually say that, I wonder if necromancy was a real thing. It probably would be illegal. It would probably be like illegal activity.
I mean, it is illegal. It is illegal.
There's a difference between fucking a dead body and raising a dead body to do your evil bidding.
I'm saying to exhume a corpse is not legal.
It's a no-no.
Yeah, but but necromancy, you're not exhuming the corpse.
No, I know, but
you are letting the corpse exhume itself.
I know, but it's the closest we can get in reality.
Yes, I will take that. So copromancy is so the ancient Chinese practiced copromancy, and it is the diagnosis of health based on the shape, size, and texture of poopy.
And so shape, size, and texture. See,
Now I just want to say the Egyptians did copromancy. The Greeks, nearly every single ancient culture took part in copromancy. And even today, your doctor may still do copromancy by asking, when you last had a bowel movement, how to describe that bowel movement, describing it in, very.
I do copromancy. Like I do copromancy to myself.
I think we all do
totally,
every day.
Yeah, every single day. I make little assumptions about how I feel or how my body is working based on my doo-doo on a daily basis.
So so it's safe to say that we are all copromancers.
And if you're not doing that, then I don't.
You should.
You should be.
I copromance my dog.
Absolutely.
Do you, Jared? Do you copromance your dog?
You study his doo-doo.
Get canceled. So this article is written by Patricia Wang, who's a PhD student in mechanical engineering. Specifically, I believe her specialty is in fluid dynamics. And she's from the Georgia Institute of Technology.
More like firm dynamics, am I right?
Hey-o. Well, not if you're talking to me.
Right.
So this is what she wrote. This is actually kind of interesting. So here's what stemmed this. Fuck. Guys, you know the meme of the girlfriend who's like, what's on your mind? What are you thinking about to her boyfriend in bed?
Yeah.
The
And with
Roman Empire
with the yeah, right. Yeah, that. It's like she thinks that he's thinking about other women, but he's actually sitting there thinking about like how does SpongeBob does SpongeBob have legs? Like that kind of thing. So the other night I was laying in bed with Kira, and And I was in that moment of having a thought where I was like, fuck, it'd be really funny if she asked me what I was thinking right now. Because I was literally thinking to myself, what are the mechanics of pooping? Like I know that when I have to poop, I go to the bathroom, I sit down, and I know that there's like a process that happens for the poop to come out of me. But like mechanically, what's actually going on to...
Well, you have a contraction in your bowel.
Right, sure, but like I want to know the musculature that's working to like push it out. Like I wanted to know like the
I think the colon
broken
is the
down into detail what's going on.
Yeah, I think I also would love to know that. I think
I don't
think it's an external muscle outside of the colon that's doing that.
Well, I bet you that there might be more.
I know what it is. Well, it's the same way a snake slithers on the ground. You know, it's like it sort of like extends slightly and then
so you're talking about a necromancer who has done necromancy on a piece of poop. So he has risen an undead thing.
It's the poop navigating itself through the colon.
Be more confused.
That's good. Yeah, you should be.
And our listeners
in the same boat. So the other thing that I was wondering was like, how does your body know that? Like, how does your body know the difference between a fart and a poop?
Probably a sensation of how the material, well, one's a gas and one's a solid, obviously. So the material feels different. It's sending a different signal to the muscle tissues.
So what about the times where that is mistaken?
Well, I think that's because
confused signal.
Because oftentimes if you are confused about what it is, it's often because it's not a solid. It's closer to a liquid, which is closer to a gas.
Everything can be explained with a lazy river analogy.
It's
like the river has tubes
you need
you
need to get a new analogy.
It's got to be new.
There's a river flowing and it's about to the river is about to flow out of the mouth of the river. The water's going to flow out. And sometimes it has tubes in it and sometimes it doesn't, and your brain can tell by the feeling of the water if there's a tube on it or not, and that's how it knows if it's a poop or a fart.
So here's the thing: it
was pretty good.
I think that what I was looking for was the actual answer. It's funny to me, like how you guys sit to try to answer this, like as though you know. When I think there's a lot more to it. But here's the thing:
no, it's definitely what we.
I didn't find that. What I found was something completely different. But I will find that at some point. I want to get to the bottom of it because I am curious. But this was an interesting little article that I found in attempts to try to figure that out.
So we're not going to get the answer to why our body is confused about a poop and a fart.
Not yet.
Okay.
We're actually going to go more so into the physics of pooping. And this was studied from a colorectal specialist and a PhD student who is into fluid dynamics. LOL. So she said she was talking about parenthood, and she was like, "When parenthood hits hard. One of us is a working dad who survived by learning a new set of skills. One of which was fecal analysis. Now, I'm sure you've been analyzing quite a bit of poop when it comes from Zaya.
Quite a bit.
Question: how much variance is there in the
wide?
Yeah.
Do you worry, like, if there's different types? Like, when you see a new type of poo that you haven't seen in either a while or ever, are you like, ooh?
Like, do you got to Google it?
Do you deduce where it came from?
The first time that it happens, it's if it persists.
Do you deduce where it comes?
I do deduce.
So, unlike the ancients, we didn't believe that we could predict the future from children's stool, which was a thing back in the day. But we did think it was worth trying to understand where all these shapes come from. The shapes being the difference in shapes or, texture of stool in children. Having a laboratory to answer such questions about the everyday world is one of the distinct pleasures of being a scientist. As fluid dynamicists, we joined forces with colorectal surgeon Daniel Chu and two stalwart undergrads.
More like Daniel Pooh.
Heyo, who filmed. So the undergrads filmed defecation and handpicked feces from 34 mammalian species at the Atlanta Zoo in order to measure their density and viscosity.
Guys, more like the Atlanta Poo.
Wow, just burying the episode, eh, Bri? So first of all, can you imagine that being your job where you are like, yeah, I'm an undergrad student and my research is I just film shit coming out of animals at the zoo. Like, that's my. And then I go and I sift through it with my hands. One of the great, actually, here's a great little. They have one of the videos of them at the zoo. They love this.
Mommy.
This is one of my favorite scenes of all time.
I mean, it's miraculous footage.
For those of you who are just listening, we're watching one of the zoologists coming out of a rhino's butthole.
Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls.
That's not what we were
could
watching.
Possibly be one of the best movies of all time.
That is, yeah, it's random that you just brought that up there, but yes, totally.
So here's where we get into the interesting stuff about this poop. And this is actually quite interesting. So we learned that most elephants and other herbivores create floaters, while most tigers and other carnivores create sinkers, which I'm guessing is like poop that floats and poop that sinks. Inadvertently, we also ranked feces from the most to least smelly, starting with tiger and rhino and going all the way to panda. The zoo's variety of animals provided us with a range of fecal sizes and shapes that served as independent pieces of evidence to validate our mathematical model of the duration of defecation.
Wait a minute. They ranked them on most smelly to least smelly. Like,
these fucking undergrads are.
Is that subjective, or is it, or objectively, is there stinkier than? Like, are they measuring like a certain amount of like ammonia in the air or something?
I think like when it comes to pungence of stink, when it comes to like something like poop or like a truly bad, like a universal bad smell, I think it's mostly objective unless you are an outlier, which that outlier would be like someone with a really intense fetish,
right?
Or a sense of smell, or like sensitivities to smell.
Yeah, but I think like in general, it's like
now my
but I could be wrong about that. I don't know.
My assumption or my guess is that there's a correlation to texture and smell. Now, this is something that I notice quite often with Zaya. And I think you probably notice with yourself too, at least subconsciously, if not consciously, that
I definitely do.
That hardness is typically less smelly.
Yeah.
The more soft your stool gets, the more smell that the more pungent of a smell it emits. Now that is fascinating, right? It seems like it's a very tight correlation, at least anecdotally.
But that makes sense to me because I feel like when your poop is really firm and hard, then less particles are going to float off into the air. And if it's really wet and messy and smelly, and it's like sort of.
Yeah, I don't know if it has to do with the amount of particles.
Here's an interesting piece about what you just said there. So if we follow what they said here, inadvertently, we also ranked feces from the most to least smelly. Starting with tiger and rhino, which I'm guessing is going to be on the most smelly, and going all the way to panda being the least smelly. Now, it said that the herbivore, no, it doesn't. It's inverse to what Taylor was just assuming, because the herbivore, the panda, has the least smelly poop, but they're also creating the floaters. So the looser of the stool would be my guess.
Less dense.
No, I think the floater would be not necessarily softer or harder, but would just be less dense because it would be a more hollow structure that's floating and a more dense structure.
Less particles.
Sure.
But also it makes sense to me that tigers look angry and pandas are cute.
Yes.
And so they should, in the way that the world works, the cuter animal should have the less stinky poop.
Kira's a lot cuter than me, and her poop definitely stinks a lot less than mine.
Yeah, right.
Right. Okay.
So we also place man, this is a job. We also place the feces in a device called a rheometer, a precision blender that can measure the properties of liquid-like and solid-like materials, such as chocolate and shampoo. And obviously, rhino poop. Our lab shares two rheometers with Georgia Tech physicist Alberto Fernandez Nieves. We have since categorized the rheometers as the clean rheometer and the David Hugh rheometer, which has seen its fair share of frog saliva, mucus, and feces. So here's something interesting that they learned through doing all this. Bigger animals have longer feces. Not much of a surprise there. And bigger animals also defecate at a higher speed than smaller animals. For instance, an elephant defecates at a speed of 6 centimeters per second, nearly 6 times as fast as a dog poop. And for context, humans defecate between, it's about 2 centimeters per second.
Depending on like if you ate like
insane.
if you ate like if you had like a night out, a dirty night out, then like you're
a dirty night out.
You know, one of those dirty nights out.
You know what, Brian? I want you to tell me what's entailed in a dirty night out.
A fucking dirty night out for Brian is like
leaving.
Is like fucking stand up on Blender making fucking donuts and then going to Willie's Poutine.
That's a dirty night
at midnight
out.
by himself. Yeah. That's a dirty night out.
You know what though? Like here's a dirty night out. I drank a bunch of beer the other night when we were at doing this talk at Dave's, and there I ate tacos while I was there. I ate pizza before I left, and then Maddie brought me home a poutine that night, and so that was and like the speed at which I defecated the next day was much faster than the bigger animal.
Wow.
Yeah.
When you poop in your dreams, you poop for real.
That was you waking up that night. So together, this meant that defecation during defecation duration is constant across many animal species, around 12 seconds, plus or minus 7 seconds, which is quite a bit.
12 seconds.
Even though the volume varies greatly. Assuming a bell curve distribution, 66% of animals take between 5 and 19 seconds to defecate. It's a surprisingly small range, given that elephant feces has a volume of 20 liters, nearly 1,000 times more than a dog's at 10 milliliters.
My volume,
but it's also relative to
my volume when I poop is very loud.
So how can animals, how can big animals defecate at such a high speed? Well, the answer we found was in the properties of an ultra-thin layer of mucus lining the walls of the large intestine. So this is, I mean, as silly as this is, it is fascinating. The mucus layer is as thin as human hair, so thin that we could measure it only by weighing feces as the mucus evaporated. Despite being thin, the mucus is very slippery, more than 100 times less viscous than feces. During defecation, feces moves like a solid plug. Therefore, in ideal conditions, the combined length and diameter of feces is simply determined by the shape of one's rectum and large intestine. One of the big findings of our study, of this very serious study, was that feces extended halfway up the length of the colon from the rectum.
It feels long.
I know.
That feels long. I mean, I don't have longies like that often.
Well, but you're not an elephant
break off
as well. Like, you know, they are talking about animals here, but they are saying that this is a constant.
We are an animal.
Yeah. They're saying that this is a constant across, you know, most of the animals that they're looking at. So
no, it is crazy when you think about how long our colons are.
They're so long.
I've said this before.
You can stretch it around the earth 6 times.
Yeah, 6.5. And it's like, if you ever have the chance, if people listening to this ever have the chance to go see the Body Worlds exhibit,
it's
at a museum,
it is
near
very
you.
Cool.
The thing that struck me going there a couple times was how long the colon is, how long everything in your body is.
Yeah.
6.5 times around the planet.
So here's the unified theory of pooping. And there is something serious at the end of this, that where this work actually has been put to stuff that's useful for us. Putting the length of feces together with the properties of mucus, we now have a cohesive physics story for how defecation happens. Bigger animals have longer feces, but also thicker mucus, enabling them to achieve high speeds with the same pressure. Without this mucus layer, defecation might not be possible at all.
Whoa.
Alterations in mucus can contribute to several different ailments, including chronic constipation and even infections by bacteria such as C. diff in the gastrointestinal tract. So, like, the work that they were doing here, actually, like, it's funny because I wonder if they were just doing this work because they were like kind of twisted, and then when they were done, they were like, well, we gotta relate this to something serious, or else like Scientific American's not going to take this fucking article very well.
You know, it's very funny. Zaya often has loose poop.
Yeah.
And you really wouldn't even.
She takes after her uncle, huh?
You really wouldn't. She takes after Uncle Jer. You wouldn't even really notice. But sometimes she goes, Sometimes she, if you catch her pooping, she'll you just look over and she goes. You just catch her face kind of contort a little bit. But the last day, the last like 24 hours, she's had very hard poops.
Oh.
And she'll just be standing there and all of a sudden she'll start going.
Not enough mucus.
She'll just start crying. And then you're like, oh, you poor thing. And she's just going, she's just crying as she's trying to push it.
So what do you, you as the parent, what are you supposed to do to alleviate that?
Squeeze them. Just console
her. You just take her. Oh, okay. I thought you're like you take her mouth or her nose, put it in her mouth, and you just blow into her.
Nope.
Yeah.
Into her mouth.
Yeah, into her mouth.
Yeah, while you're squeezing
to blow it out the asshole from the back.
Yeah, you don't. I haven't tried that.
You can also hold her up and just shake like her. If you not shake. Dude, you never shake a baby. It's a
Can you
rapid,
shake a toddler?
No, it's a rapid downward movement, but then like an abrupt stop.
The trick the trick is the same one that you use for ketchup.
Press the cervical spine.
It's those old ketchup bottles. You don't do that. You have to kind of do that momentum down, but you also kind of have to hit it on the side. So it's kind of like the way you would give her the Heimlich maneuver, but just reverse her. You turn around so her bum's facing away from you and just smack her.
The one other way is just like hold her under your arm and take her from the top of the head and just give her a good strong pat on the top of the head, because that'll just drive the momentum straight through her entire body.
Very good. Very good parenting advice.
So beyond simply following their scientific curiosity, these measurements of feces have also had some practical applications. They said, our defecation data helped us design an adult diaper for astronauts. Okay. Astronauts want to stay in spacesuits for 7 days, but are limited to their diapers. Taking advantage of this viscosity of feces, we designed a diaper that segregates the feces away from direct contact with the skin. And it was the semifinalist in the NASA Space Poop Challenge earlier that year.
Wait, how does that work?
Wait, hold on.
I don't know. It's probably like some sort of Lululemon wicking technology.
Wait, hold on. Why are astronauts just not using the bathroom?
The same reason why you complain about having to go pee in the middle of the day, because it fucks up your workflow.
Yeah.
Because they're on such a tight schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're not using it for they're not 7 days though.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. It depends on the mission. Like this was when they were going up in the shuttle, they would only be up there for.
Because you would think that pooping pooping might take you like 5, maybe 10 minutes if you're me. But the thing that you don't think about is how much that adds up over time.
That, bro.
30?
So
triple that, bro. This guy's a fucking walking hemorrhoid.
So think about how long Chris Hadfield was on the International Space Station.
He was up there for a minute.
Right. And so
change his diaper 8 times?
Well, yeah. I mean, if he had to change it 68 times and it took 10 minutes every time he had to do that, that's a lot of lost productivity.
Guys, I don't think you heard me. They were the semifinalists. They didn't win. The people that won were like, oh, we just made a vacuum that literally just sucks the shit away from everything.
You could probably also just
makes way more sense.
Maybe they just remove the mucus out so that plug literally becomes a plug and you just don't even.
West Hemorrhoid Treatment Center.
Man, we talked about that for so long.
I was hoping we could do it for 30 straight minutes, but we're only at 25 minutes and 10 seconds. But anyway, we have to move on.
Holy shit, it's been
so yeah, U.S. men.
Did someone just tip us? What was that sound?
Yeah, sorry, I left my free cams open here. U.S. men die. This is breaking news. U.S. men die nearly 6 years before women as life expectancy gap widens.
I saw this.
So we've known for more than a century that women outlive men. And we also know that women are just better in general than us. But new research.
We just get tipped again?
Oopsie. I love my women. I gotta actually over here supporting women. A couple of my favorite women. Let me close that out there. All right. God damn it. All right. So. Okay, so women
doing
shit. Women outlive men, so that's no new news. But new research by Harvard, T.H. Chan School of Public Health, and UC San Francisco shows that, at least in the United States, we're talking about the U.S. here, the gap has been widening for more than a decade. The trend is being driven by, what do you think the trend's being driven by? And here, there are multiple factors, but the two kind of big ones, there's two big ones. What do you think they could be?
Male suicide?
That's one of them, but it's not one of the bigger ones. But yes, that would be up there.
The fact that beach bodies has taken off so much that and their largest demo is women, and so they're just promoting really healthy lifestyles and these amazing shakes that increase longevity.
And Brian knows that at work. And if you are interested in grabbing a coffee with Brian,
I will say this: my sister was doing Beachbody for a while, and those shakes are pretty good. The protein powder was. I was like, this shit slaps.
Yeah. How many people do you have underneath you?
Probably like none. But I am setting up a get together at my house, and we're also gonna be selling Tupperware. So in a research paper to be published online November 13th in JAMA, the authors found the difference between how long American men and women live increased to 5.8 years in 2021, the largest it's been since 1996, and this is an increase from 4.8 years in 2010. So over the span of 11 years, it increased increased by 1 full percent. But those two big ones, the trend is being driven by COVID-19 and the opioid epidemic.
Yeah.
Now, COVID, but
what was the deal with COVID?
But
the opioid epidemic is less surprising.
But not so much because of the virus, the COVID virus, more so due to the pandemic in general and what it has done to society, which we'll get into it. So the pandemic, which took a disproportionate toll on men, seems a little sexist, was the biggest contributor to the widening gap from 2019 to 2021, followed by unintentional injuries and poisonings, mostly drug overdoses, accidents, and suicide. So that's the sort of chronological list there, or rather the hierarchical list of what was taking place. There's been a lot of research into the decline of life expectancy in recent years, but no one has systematically analyzed why the gap between men and women has been widening since 2010, said first author Brandon Yan, a UCSF internal medicine resident physician and research collaborator at Harvard Chan School. Life expectancy in the U.S. dropped last year, or rather in 2021, which we covered, to 76.1 years, falling from 78.8 years in 2019. The shortening lifespan of Americans has been attributed to, in part, to so-called deaths of despair. This term refers to the increase in deaths from such causes as suicide, drug use disorders, and alcoholic liver disease, which are often connected with economic hardship, depression, and stress. So these things are kind of tied to the overall results of the pandemic. It's not necessarily people getting COVID and dying. Mm-hmm. It's just the way that COVID has sort of affected the culture, affected the country. And so we're seeing more things like people drinking more or resorting to drugs more or mental health declining.
It made men a lot more sad, and they didn't have ways to talk about have outlets for their sadness. I shouldn't say it made them more sad. It made them sad in ways that they weren't able to.
This is really interesting. Not to go too off track. I think this is pretty correlated with what we're talking about. Is I started Gabor Mate's book last night, Myth of Normal.
Yeah.
And
shout out Gabor Mate. We're going to be doing a live show in Vancouver on December 5th. It's sold out. If you didn't get tickets, you suck.
And there was something in just the first couple of pages where he's kind of like laying out the thesis for the book, talking about like, it's not this thing or that thing or that thing. Like, it's not these individual things or even a collection of things. It's like the full fabric of society.
Yeah.
And he drew a couple of like close connections to like what that means and like what are some of like the key features of a sort of what's like a dysfunctional society basically. And what stood out to me was it was like the way in which we are able to communicate with the people that are like closest to us in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I was struck by, I was like, wow. You know, like I think almost all of my friends, except for you guys, and the reason more so is because like there's so many of our conversations are work conversations. Whereas with like everybody else in our tight friend group, it's not work conversations, obviously. But like everybody I talk to on the phone, we say I love you when we get off the phone. Like it's very common. It's very common for us to talk about hard shit that we're going through,
mm-hmm.
to talk about like shit that we're struggling with, to talk about shit that we're excelling at and like really happy about. And I was like really struck by, it seems normal to me, but I know that is like that's actually quite a rare feature of a group of friends. And I was like, man, I just felt like a lot of like gratitude and luck, I guess, for being for having
such a beta friend group.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And anyway, it just really struck me. Like very intensely that like some of like the key features that really make society dysfunctional is like, for some reason, and I have no idea why it is, like we have features of our immediate friend group that
mm-hmm.
at least have the power to overcome some of those issues or help us overcome some.
I was on the phone with a new guy friend recently, and at the end of the call,
it's okay. You can say new boyfriend.
said, okay, see you later. I love you. And he didn't say it back.
And how did that make you feel?
Well, it made me feel like
Brian texted him immediately and was like, I don't appreciate when I say I love you and you don't say it back. I'm just asking once in a while, if you just say I love you.
But I had the realization that like it's so second nature for me to say that to my guy.
Who was it? You don't have to say their name. Well, here, say their name in 3, 2. So
but you know what? The second time he said it back.
Yeah. Oh, that's
very
cute.
sweet.
That's cute. That was really nice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it makes me think about like like me telling you guys about my like video game addiction and like feeling all fucked up. You know, if we didn't have that kind of friend group that you were just referring to, maybe I wouldn't have felt I probably would have still felt the urge to tell you guys that, but maybe I wouldn't have felt the comfort in being able to disclose that.
Totally.
You know, and so what does that do, right? What kind of trickle down effect does that have over the span of a few years? If I can't say it to you guys, can I say it to my partner? Can I say it to my who do I feel comfortable in talking about that shit with?
Yeah, likely no one.
Exactly, right? So again, they prior to the COVID pandemic, the largest contributors to this gap in life expectancy were unintentional injuries, diabetes, suicide, homicide, and heart disease. But during the pandemic, men were more likely to die of the virus. That was likely due to a number of reasons, including differences in health behaviors, as well as social factors such as the risk of exposure at work, reluctance to seek medical care, incarceration and housing instability, chronic metabolic disorders, mental health illness, and gun violence also contributed. And one of the researchers said that the results raise questions about whether more specialized care for men, such as in mental health, should be developed to address the growing disparity in life expectancy.
It is kind of surprising.
In a one might argue, maybe this is what we need to dismantle the patriarchy.
That's a good point.
You mean just like more men dying in general?
Yeah. Just you know,
like a bit of like.
It's okay. We don't have to close this gap up. Let's widen the gap a little more.
Like a clean house sort of.
Think about it. Think about if all the men in the world started dying off at like 30. Well, we wouldn't see it. We wouldn't get as many people complaining about our Mitch McConnells and our Sleepy Joes. You know?
Well, it is true because you do have to be at least 70 to be a politician.
Yeah.
So Yeah.
Minimum
I thought,
requirement.
I'm a little bit surprised about these findings because I saw a lot of men building a strong community during the pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
Particularly like a lot of those who drive trucks. Yeah. People were responding to rallying cries around the flag of our nation. Like there was a lot of great community that was built.
Yeah. Be careful. This podcast is on CBC and we know how much those truckers don't appreciate the old CBC.
That's okay. That's good that we know they're not listening.
We don't want to create any more separate or any more disparity and distance. We don't want to widen that gap, that political gap any more than it's widened. But the death gap, let's widen that right the fuck up. Let's see what happens. All right, let's move on. Let's get into this week's edition of What the Hell? I'm really excited for What the Health this week. Our good friend Annika Harmonica, who has just replaced Lauren, and has become our new production assistant. She sent this to me, and it blew my fucking mind. I believe you guys probably might have seen this, but this is. Do you guys know what this is? If you don't know.
Oh yeah. We were with Annika when she.
So this is what's called a teratoma, and we've covered teratomas on the show before. For people who aren't familiar, teratomas are a benign tumor that grows within the human body in various places, and they often are found to grow within them or around them. Teeth, hair, there might be some other things. I think it's like teeth and hair are the big ones. And this is the image that we're looking at for folks that are just listening and not watching on YouTube, which is pretty much every single one of you.
It looks like a sack of plantains attached to someone's head.
It does look like just like a bunch of sliced bananas in a little bag. But we're looking at a CT image of someone's head from the side profile. So you see you see basically like one full hemisphere of this person's brain. We can see, the side of their face, their nose, their mouth. You can see that, it's like a dissection of the center of the head from the side. And attached to this person's head, as though they are wearing a giant bow on the top of their head,
like a
bow bun, is the tumor. And you can see in it all the teeth. I mean, it's a lot of teeth, a lot of molars.
Yeah.
Not many are they called incisors?
No, but lots of molars.
Lots of molars.
They come in lots of different shapes too. Like there's they get smaller near the edge and then bigger towards the middle.
Yeah. So
there must have been like 40 teeth in there.
So teratomas are kind of a mystery in the sense that what I've gathered is that we don't actually quite know exactly where they stem from or what's going on.
But we know they're gross.
But they are. And one of the running theories is that maybe perhaps not all of them, but some of them are what were once the twin of the person who has the teratoma, and they have absorbed their twin in utero.
I've got a better theory.
I've seen Malignant.
That my theory is that this is proof that we are in a simulation and these are just the wires being crossed.
Brother, you're fucking speaking my language. So here's a story of a woman named Yamini Karanam. A woman's brain tumor turns out to be evil twin, complete with bone, hair, and teeth.
I think we covered this.
We didn't.
Okay.
So this is Yamini.
Oh, I was thinking of.
You are thinking of Malignant. It's a fantastic horror film.
No, I was thinking of the Indian guy who had like the big pregnant looking belly.
That's right.
Yeah.
Similar thing, but a little bit different. So this is Yamini right here, beautiful woman.
More like Yum Meanie because she ate her twin.
Whoa!
Teeth in her.
I thought you were going to say Yum Meanie because she was you thought she was attractive, and I was going to say you are canceled. The PhD student had moved from Hyderabad, India, to Indianapolis to study computer science, but her new life in America was going to get a little funky. Once a brilliant student, she now had trouble understanding simple articles. Friends and colleagues would say things to her only for the sentences to get mixed up in her head. Because that's where Karanam's problem lay, deep within her brain. She went on holiday and returned to be more exhausted than when she left. And Karanam slept for 2 weeks straight, missing school.
No offense, but that's pretty
That's
You know, like you
standard.
go on holiday and you come back and you're pretty tired afterwards.
I need a holiday after holiday.
I know.
Tay needs at least a week.
Yeah.
But she took 2. So, it's a little too long. Then came the headache, she said. Slips and misses at work followed. She wrote this on her blog. There were doctors first, a couple of them, and then more. Then came the revelation. Doctors spotted what they thought was a cyst on Karen M's pineal gland, the tiny pea-like structure in the center of the brain that French philosopher René Descartes called the principal seat of the soul. Quote, the fear didn't sink in yet, Karen M wrote. My will was undeterred because it was hardly put to test. My energy levels were sinking and fatigue started crippling my days, months, and weeks slipped through my fingers. There weren't any diagnostic procedures left to run on me. Consultations followed procedures, but nobody said anything useful. It was like white noise passed from the doctor to the patient to the support system. Now they called it a tumor, and that's all 21st century medicine could do in 3 months. So she just kept getting sicker. Pains ran throughout her entire body. She was soon unable to walk. She said, quote, but the men of science found no correlation between my suffering and the images, she wrote. I thought they would take my problems and own them, but they didn't, and they didn't. There was frustrations and anger. Most of all, there was self-doubt. When sanity was in question, the best of us lost ourselves to the answer. So desperate to save her life, her friends put together a GoFundMe campaign. They raised over $32,000. And Karen M.
One day in the hospital.
Karen M. found a doctor named Dr. Rayer. Dr. Rayer performed a radical, what's called keyhole brain surgery at something called the Skull Base Institute in Los Angeles. So with the $32,000, they flew her out there. She got this surgery. And what happened was the doctor made a tiny incision in the back of her head, strung an endoscope into her skull and threw a natural channel in her brain to the site of the tumor. And that's when the doctor made a startling discovery.
Oh, no.
Karen M's tumor wasn't just a tumor. It was a teratoma, a clump of bone, hair, and teeth, a Frankenstein's monster within Karen M's own mind. Now, teratomas have baffled scientists for almost a century. Some have speculated that they are basically the twin that never fully developed and are instead absorbed into the survivor's body. In fact, newborns occasionally have large teratomas attached to them like a conjoined twin. Other times, it's not until adulthood that people realize that they have one. In 2009, a British man named Gavin Hyatt gave birth to an underdeveloped identical twin.
What do you mean?
When a small lump pushed its way out of his abdomen. Whoa. Hyatt named the tiny creature Little Gav.
Wait, was it alive? No.
What is alive? Okay. So it's not clear that Karen M's tumor was really her twin, but it was definitely killing her. That's for sure. They ended up taking it out. It was not cancerous, and they're expecting for her to make a full recovery. Now, I want to show you guys a little clip. This isn't Karen M. This isn't the girl, but this is someone who also had a teratoma. And the way they discovered their teratoma is very unique, and it was, this is nightmarish. Buckle up. Thank you, Reddit. So you can see this woman here. She has a teratoma in the back of her head, and she seems to be able to, pull it out. Whoa. Now here's the crazy thing. She's incarcerated here. So this is in jail.
Whoa.
Right? And it gets real bad. Like, the teratoma takes over and starts acting for this woman, and also seems to know Kung Fu. So you can see here, she just broke that woman's arm. Teratoma ripped its hand. God damn.
Whoa. It's crazy because like there was like a Foley artist did the
this is a really interesting
the sound design for this this like actual security camera
there
footage.
We go, yeah. And so so her teratoma just killed 6 women.
Dude, I completely forgot how insane that movie is. Oh my God.
Yeah. So
you haven't seen that movie, eh, Brian?
That was security camera footage from the jail.
Yeah, very interesting documentary.
That was CCTV footage.
Yeah.
Thanks, folks. Hope you enjoyed this week's episode. As it for this week. And if you want to support the podcast, you could do that by coming over to the Discord. We've got lots of fun stuff happening over there. New little segment we got going on over there where Annika, the harmonica, is asking questions about episodes that have come up recently. Maybe she'll ask a question about this one. Maybe she'll ask. How does everyone feel about the guys talking about poop for 30 minutes right off the top of an episode? Do you guys think this will retain new listeners? Yes or no? That might be a question that comes up, and you can go over there and you can answer that, which could help us greatly. So, and if you want to support the podcast further, leave a rating and review on Apple Podcast and Spotify. Hit the follow button, all that stuff. It's all great. So thank you so much for supporting the show. We love you.
And if you want to be a guest on the show, if you have any particular... It might be
a tumor.
It's not a tumor.
If you have
damn it, Arnold.
Any stories about teratomas, or if you want to talk about poop, or if you're a poop expert.
I do love talking about poop.
I mean, God, there's so much interesting stuff around poo-poo. Reach out to us. Let us know. sickboypodcast.com. Click on the famed button and fill out the guest form.
And if you haven't seen, we've been producing other shows as of late. You can check out a show that we recently produced called New Wave, which is available wherever you get podcasts. And Taylor actually hosts it. He did an amazing job, so I highly recommend checking it out. And thanks as always to the folks who helped make this show happen. A huge thank you to Jeff Lonis, our manager, Richard Coyne, for the theme music, and everybody else. We love you.
That is it for this week.
And a thank you to Annika Harmonica, too. I'm Brian.
I'm Taylor.
And I'm Jeremy, and this is Sick Boy.